Physique Mastery Podcast. This is Scott Tousignant along with Bryan, Krahn, and our man Paul Thiel joining us today. We've got an excellent topic to cover here, something that you don't hear discussed nearly enough, if any at all, and that is the topic of maintenance. I mean, we're in a recreational sport that kind of deals with extremes. You're either cutting hard or building hard, and a lot of times you get to the end of the cutting phase and you're so tired of the depletion and the deprivation that you just can't wait to freaking binge and put that weight back on and eat again. And then you build yourself up and you get to the end of your building phase and you're like, oh my God, I put on a little bit too much fat. I don't want to stay here for too long. I can't wait to cut this fat off. And so you really don't spend any time in maintenance. This has been something that Bryan I've heard him repeat over and over again, the importance of holding on to that weight, whether it's at the end of a cutting phase, at the end of a building phase, and really create that new set point for yourself. And you got to hold it for, I believe, I'll let Bryan cover this in a second here, like 4 weeks to 8 weeks, and really let your body hold on to it. Most of us don't have the patience for that, or we've kind of pushed the diet too far, or the weight gain too far, and we have to completely shift gears and get onto a new thing. And something I've heard him discuss more recently in the past few months that really kind of brought it all together was this concept of chasing maintenance and embracing maintenance. And that kind of struck a chord with me more so than creating your new set point there. So I'm going to let Bryan take over and discuss a bit more about this chasing maintenance and embracing maintenance. And then we got Paul here, who is the first example of someone who I've seen put this into practice, really taken Bryan's advice to heart, and has really gotten to the point of, like, we're talking about physique mastery, and I think Paul is really getting to the point of mastering maintenance now. And again, mastery isn't about perfection. It's a process of learning and going along, and I'm really excited to pick his brain and insights on what he's learned, some of the key takeaways and key points from his maintenance phase right now. So this is going to be a fun conversation. I'm really excited to learn from Paul and as well sharing this with Bryan. So Bryan, let's start off with you kind of talking about the idea of creating that new set point and the concept of chasing maintenance.
Oh yeah, it's first I got to give full credit to Dr. Trevor Kashey from Relentless Dietetics. He's a fantastic coach himself. I learned a lot from him. And I remember I don't know if it was an email exchange I was having with him or just something he had written, and he wrote this phrase, chasing maintenance, and it just kind of like, it was like a light bulb for me. So like any good writer, I immediately stole it.
Absolutely.
But no, and then it really worked well with there's something that bros have always said, and another thing that I've stolen from bros is that to endlessly like to bulk, go on aggressive bulk, and then immediately start cutting when you've reached your whatever your goal or your point where you're sick and freaking tired of it, and start cutting right away is just like the worst thing you could do, because you just shed all that weight so quickly. I mean, actually it sounds like a good thing, but you shed all of that good weight that you've put on over the course of so many months of just, eating like a machine and getting uncomfortably big. If you immediately start cutting, it just flies off and you wind right back up where you started. And it's even, exact same thing when you're on a really aggressive fat loss diet, like for months and months and months. If you immediately, take the after picture and start bulking again, you just hammer the weight back on so quickly. So this something that I've picked up on and tried to do always, and the people I work with and myself, is when you reach your goal, whatever direction it may be, to really try to just hold that at least maybe 80% of that peak for as long as you can. And now obviously the question is how. What is that? Because obviously a real bodybuilder, a competitive bodybuilder can't hold a peak condition. I mean that's a snapshot in time. That's their right. Physical zenith, But even 80% of that, how do you hold that? How long do you have to hold that? That's what I'm getting at. And it's kind of like that's what I've always but that's what's been fascinating me for a while. So I think it's that point where it's just not like it's not work anymore. In a sense, it's like you can kind of like, you can miss a few meals and your weight doesn't change, or you can go take a weekend off or whatever, and your weight doesn't change terribly beyond the usual like water fluctuations. Like you don't have these drives to eat like crazy, or these drives like, oh, I gotta, I wish I could quit eating so much. Like everything feels normal. Like that's anyway. I'm rambling.
And so that is a point of finding kind of your true maintenance. So you're not necessarily relying on calorie calculations or anything, and then kind of to find what is my ideal target maintenance range. You've gotten into a groove where you're eating normal, and like I said, not to the point of being too full or eating too light, restrictive. It's just you're finding your normal, and over an extended period of time, your body kind of adapts to that, and you see this is my kind of set point here.
Yeah. And before we get into Paul's like absolutely ridiculous results and his success with this process, like to me, it's so much more. It's almost like it's a mental thing. Obviously it's physiology rules the day, but it's almost like it's just a mental point that you have to try to reach, where this is like, this is my new weight, and this is my, this is my way of traveling, as opposed to like, I'm always thinking about what you're eating, whether it's to lose weight or gain weight. Like you have to kind of reach that point where it's like it's your new way of traveling. It's just,
Yeah,
anyway,
that's a good point.
So it's still very much a physiological thing, but it's also a psychological thing. So, so Paul,
I think that let's just highlight that point for one sec, because that is the mental aspect is huge, and we tend to deal in extremes. We have to be chasing some sort of goal, and it can be very challenging to think I don't have a goal to chase. And so this is where I think Paul he's learned a lot throughout this process of trying to not having a real big goal to aim for, but finding other little goals to go along. So let's start off with Paul here. And Paul, kind of give a bit of a background from the past basically year and a half. First of all, one of the big reasons why I like to have Paul on here is that he is a very consistent tracker, very diligent with tracking his process, very diligent with tracking intake and weight changes. And so when you look at his progress, that whether he's building muscle or he's burning fat, he's very linear, kind of the king of linear lines here, where everything is moving in a steady direction here. And so it's really good to see that he's got data to kind of go on here. We're not just looking at pictures or hearsay or anything, solid data from his results. And so let's talk about the past 18 months or so, beginning with your building phase from about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so that was a while back now, I guess. It was, I think, October 2015 through to September 2016, so almost a year. It was about 48 weeks. And I went into that bulking phase, building phase, really committed simply because I was kind of tired somewhat of just constantly doing the 4, 6, 8 week thing. Recycling the same 10 pounds, essentially. Build 8 to 10 pounds, cut 7 to 9 pounds, maybe gain 1 pound. So I really decided I would go big on that bulk. It was pretty long. And I gained about 40 pounds over that 48 weeks. So from 170 and change up to, and sitting around 10% body fat, I guess, at the start, up to about 210 and 15 and a half when I last got a hydrostatic test at the end. So a decent amount of muscle added and a decent amount of fat too.
And I got to jump in here. I mean, 99 times out of 100 when people quote me their body fat percentage, I nod my head and think you're out to lunch. Paul's body fat percentages are legit. Like, he gets DEXAs, and if you ever seen him, he was a lean dude, man. So yeah, like your numbers are.
You can say small. You can say small. It's fine.
Well, no.
But nonetheless, it was. By the numbers, it was successful for sure. It was a good bulk. And by the end of that, I pretty much had 1 pair of jeans and 3 t-shirts that fit. And I think this is where we can first touch on the point of maintenance or trying to create a new set point. I had about 0% chance of making a set point out of that end game.
So that was 41 pounds. Just to clarify, 41 pounds. And how much of that was lean mass and how much was fat?
It was about 55% lean mass, 45% fat.
And that was and the beauty of having your data there, right?
Yeah.
Tracking your journey there throughout that nearly a year time span there. You were tracking each week basically how much of your gain was muscle, how much was
Yeah,
fat. Like you had a rough idea, so you kind of knew like towards the end, because a lot of reasons why we'll tell people to stop building at the end of 16 weeks or 20 weeks is because you got to a point, your body fat percentage is creeping up there, and the amount of weight that you gain, a greater percentage of it tends to come from fat the closer you get to the end of your building phase. But you're like 46 weeks or whatever towards the end of your building phase, and you're still getting close to around half of that coming from muscle and half of it fat.
Yeah, I had three hydrostatic tests during that period. One at the beginning, two in the middle, and then the one at the end. And every one of those interim steps, I was reasonably well prepared to say, if we've gone past, if I ever stop making less than half of my gains from muscle, I'll stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it never came. And it was only that last one where it was like 50.5% or something. It was like bang on the halfway point. But I'd also hit 15.6% body fat at that point. And I had a 37-inch waist, I guess, at that point. So, I mean, I could tell the last few of those pounds were hitting me right in the gut, literally right in the gut. And that was it. I couldn't do anymore. That was the ceiling. So then we shifted gears.
So that was your so for you, that was your point where you're like, okay, this is it. Like when you hit a 37-inch waist, which
I mean, if this was all new ground, everything was new. I've never been past 190 in my life, so it was a gratifying. It was really, it felt good. I kind of had gravity. Things just moved towards me. It was odd, and then, but equally, it was odd. It was an odd feeling. I have to say, it was all new. It was weird being that big, and I did feel very uncomfortable. My cardio was putting on socks.
It is that is amazing. Like people always say that, and you think, oh, they're just being over the top. But
no. I'm seriously, I swear to you, I had to sit down to put on socks. Which sounds ridiculous, but is definitely true. And I was strong. I mean, I hit some good numbers during that as well. I mean, as you'd expect. But so nonetheless, like I say, by the numbers, a successful bulk. How I felt at the end, other than being pleased with the numbers, it was not a sustainable condition for me, not by a long stretch.
So that didn't allow you to hit that set point. You couldn't hold on to it.
No, I could never hold that. So I think I stayed there for maybe 10 days, not even quite the 2 weeks. And then I think from like 1st of October-ish, 2016, through to just before Christmas, actually, I shed about 29 pounds in 15 weeks. So roughly 2 pounds a week, tapering, obviously, somewhat through that process.
Right.
But nonetheless, pretty much a straight line drop. And when you look at the data, it's like, it's like K2. It's all the way up, and it's all the way down to at least camp 3 or something, right. To base camp.
Okay. And your net so you shed 29 pounds in 15 weeks, so your net lean mass gain for this whole 40 or 50 week process, however length
I was around 10 to 12 pounds, I guess.
Wow, 10 to 12 pounds of lean mass. I'm
I mean, there's probably, give or take some inaccuracy in waste and water and a few other things. Just still eating a decent amount of food. Yeah, but
which is exciting to see the transitions, because last we spoke and you contributed an incredible article to the Metabolic Masterpiece website. At the end of your building phase, what was it, about like 21 pounds of lean mass that you had gained? And that's lean body mass. That's not muscle tissue. That counts for muscle glycogen and all that other stuff. So that's 21 pounds at the end of a building phase, and you get to the end of the cutting phase, and you're looking at, well, really, it was around 10 to 12 pounds. But even then, you're at the end of a cutting phase, and your muscle glycogen is depleted, and all that other stuff. So it's tough to find an exact number in there. But.
Right, it is, and
that's amazing. At your age, Paul's over 40 for everyone who's like, well, he looks closer to 60, but he's over 40, and that is that's impressive. And we'll put up some pics. Scott, we'll put up pics. Oh yeah, there, and it'll. Well done, man.
Yeah, no. So I mean that, and I guess at 180 pounds was when we started talking really about, for me, I don't know, numbers. Numbers are always in my mind. Number is always on my horizon, which is we can get to when we talk a little bit more about the maintenance process itself and how it's good for the brain. But 180 was like a real number for me. Like I've spent a great many years trying to get my body weight up to 180 pounds of relatively lean tissue, looking half decent at 180 pounds. And so on the way down from this bulk, when I hit that 180 pounds, I'm like, I got to slow this rate of loss. I got to slow down.
Well, 180 total body weight or 100 like
total 180 total.
Okay.
So with the last test, I was at 170 point something lean mass at a body weight of about 180 pounds. So I was kind of like, all right, 10 or 11 pounds of fat in my body, but 180 on the scale was just a weight where I wanted to sit and look good for whatever reason. Like I say, numbers are just always there for me. And yet, if I carried on at that rate of cutting, because frankly, that cutting was not hard. It just was.
Yeah.
It was still just happening. So I had to slow it down. So I recalculated. I calculated maintenance calories, or at least a starting point for myself, which was around 2750, something like that. And on December 19, I started hitting those. I started tracking again. Hadn't tracked in more than 18 months. So I started hitting those calorie numbers and just continued with my workouts that I was doing. And it was a pretty hard stop. It put the brakes on pretty well.
So when you were still bulking, where did your calories top out at?
All of the calories, Brian.
Okay, good.
I didn't track. I mean, I spot tracked a few days, and I was consistently into the high 3000s.
Okay.
And it took me 6 months to be able to eat like that, which is why I made slow progress at the start. I just couldn't eat enough food and gain the weight. So I had to train the eating as much as I trained the training, train my body, and I eventually got pretty good at eating a decent amount of food. So yeah, I didn't track though. I spot checked a few days, but certainly comfortably 4,000 calories a few of those days, no problems.
Okay, so and when you were doing that, like even towards the end when it was like you've been doing it for a while, did it still feel like, oh God, I gotta eat all this again?
No, it definitely got easier. Definitely got easier.
Well, it got easier. Okay. All right, but then you hit this 37-inch waist. I remember you and I having these conversations, and you're like, this is, and you certainly weren't a huge, you were.
No, we've got some pics. I mean, if I showed you some pictures, people wouldn't even know I'd bulked necessarily. Yeah. Right? It didn't look. It was. Very different to me, but it didn't look particularly out of the ordinary.
But for you, like that 37-inch waist and the, going into AFib, just put on your socks, that type of shit, like that was like, that was like the bridge too far. And that was when you decided, all right, now I want to start.
Yeah, I had to stop wearing my belt. I mean, we're talking 4 belt notches here. I stopped wearing it at the end because it just didn't really want to do up. And by the end of that 15 weeks, I was doing it back up at 34 inches, wherever I sit normally. So 180 pounds was like the point at which I really needed to slow things down and went into maintenance at that point. And I've hit 2750 a day every day for 10 weeks now.
And with that maintenance, you've kind of lost a little bit of weight during the time. So you're finding that maintenance, but what you thought was your maintenance is actually a kind of small deficit. Is what you're realizing, which is kind of nice because you're holding on, but you're still, because you're at around 10% body fat, and you don't mind getting a little bit leaner, but you don't. It's not like you're cutting. You're intentionally.
No, totally. And it was just a calculated number, so I knew it would be a starting point.
Yeah.
It's just that most of over that 10 weeks, I think I've lost. Well, as of this morning, I'm down about 3 pounds. So you're looking at not even a third of a pound a week.
Okay.
So it's really slow, really gradual, and I feel nice and tight. And it's been effortless, really, because I'm actually having to work a little bit to make sure I hit that 2750 some days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is what I find interesting, because if you at the beginning of this, and if you would have said to me, I want to do this bulk, and I think I can net 10 to 12 pounds of lean body mass over the next year. Being an over 40 guy, kind of a higher stress guy, I would have said, I would have said,
I would have laughed.
I would have you don't have on that you wouldn't be able to do. I had no doubt you'd be able to, crank your scale weight up. That's not hard. But I figured there'd be no way that you could, especially you're not a beginner. You have a great physique to begin with. Like, there's just no way you could put on that amount of lean mass. So in other words, score to you. Well done, very well done.
Thank you, sir.
But what I found interesting is, or what I like, could you have, like, should you have, maybe that's the question, held this peak, even though you felt like a sack of shit and you felt should you have held that chubby 37-inch waist for at least a time? Even though you netted some weight, would you have netted more weight had you have held that for a time?
Right.
I don't doubt it. I think it's twofold. If I had just sucked it up, which I could have sucked it up. It was all in my head, right? There was no. I could have bought a second pair of jeans. I got enough money to do that. It's like it was all in my head. It was, and it makes no sense after the fact. There's a little bit of regret there, right? It's like so much work went into that to have not maybe capitalized on it to the fullest possible extent. I feel like I've shortchanged myself. Even if it was for 1 more pound, it's not really the point. It was really, I probably will never do that again to that extent. So it was maybe a one-time only opportunity. Really let's
touch on that, because we talked about this yesterday about how, that's a long time. Most people do not spend that amount of time in a building phase. And the 40 pounds, so it's that you wouldn't want to get to that point again where you feel that uncomfortable, put on that amount of fat. But the next time you do a building phase, so what you took from that is that next time you do a building phase is that you may extend your building phase for a longer duration of time, but take it a little bit slower and steadier.
Yeah, totally.
So then you reach a point where, say at the end of the 46 weeks or whatever, if you push it that long again, you're not going to feel so uncomfortable that you have to immediately go into fat loss mode. You actually can sit there at that point and be relatively happy with how you're looking before cutting again.
Exactly. I don't, it's very much not about the duration. It's very much about the extent. So I would happily, one of the things maintenance has done and one of the things that bulk did is very much help me psychologically, I guess, in terms of I'm very goal oriented. Everything is chasing down a goal at some point. And so a lot of my data is very sawtooth over the years. It's up or down, it's up and down. Not a lot of sustained periods doing anything. And I'm like that in the gym and I'm like that in life a lot. And so the process of not having a goal to chase, the process of just sitting here with relative ease, with relative comfort for an extended window where I kind of feel pretty good, I look half decent, I perform pretty good. It's kind of effortless, and it's been nice. It's been a really nice break mentally, physically for me. And the meta point there, I guess, is that the longer you can extend your perspective, your time horizon, the further you can take all of these phases, the longest window possible that you can run all these phases for, the more successful they are in many respects. I would happily do another 1 year bulk. I would go Jeff Albert style and build for a year and lean out for more than a year if I had to. And that's where I feel like I missed a bit of an opportunity with that bulk, which is if I could have just sat there for a month or two and then lost those 30 pounds over 6 to 9 months, not 3. Yeah. I think I could have another 5 or 8 pounds on me.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is the interesting thing, because now, have you been at maintenance for about 10 weeks now?
10 weeks. Nearly 10 weeks coming up.
And during that time, you've lost a little bit. You've actually burned a bit of fat during that process. So this really kind of is almost like a very extended cutting phase. You're so close to maintenance calories, but you're still slowly and steadily burning fat. Now, if you bumped up the calories just a little bit more, you could do a slow and steady building phase. It's like there's that small, that little gray area that you can go slightly in one direction, slightly in another, and make gradual progress rather than our big peaks and valleys.
Yeah. And I think at least 2 points in this last 10 weeks, I've wanted to do something. I think about 3 weeks in, I was like, so what is the plan? What is the plan? Is the plan to go back into building? Is the plan to go back and, get a little leaner? What's the plan? And Bryan, it's like, just chase maintenance. This is where we got this chasing maintenance. Chase maintenance. Just get comfortable, stay where you are. And I did. And then about 3 weeks later, the same thought sort of occurred, but it was a little less intense at that point. And now it's kind of, I still think, what's next for me? But I have that thought without worrying about when. So now I've seemed to have a whole slew of choices on the horizon for me, which is, with the current data just showing me that I'm just still ever so gradually leaning out, I can just sit here a bit longer, probably work out. I mean, I've changed my workout twice in that 10 weeks, two different routines. One was 3 on, 1 off. And so I thought, I needed a bit more rest. So I went to a 1 on, 1 off schedule, thinking I would slow that trend of loss. I'm only not quite 3 weeks into that. It hasn't, oddly. So even taking the extra rest days, adding 1 to 2 extra rest days a week has not all of a sudden changed the direction, changed the angle of that line. It is still it might change, but it's still very gently moving downwards, which I find odd.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, probably at the peak of your bulk, like if we can go back in time, probably would have been best if you just tried to like sit there, obviously watch your body weight every day, keep your diet consistent, and try to maybe get to the point where your weight doesn't go up or down terribly. You're at this peak level. That'd be like a good indicator and all. But even more so, I would probably look for things like when you're psychologically kind of shift, like you're no longer feel like you're actively bulky, like you're actively in this bulk, you're just kind of like, yeah, man, this is just how I eat, and this is just how I, and your sleep normalize, everything feels like in a rhythm, and yet your weight's not changing. Like, to me, that'd be another thing to like look for, that you've kind of reached this new Paul,
And I think I don't know whether, I mean, maybe eventually, if I'd sat there for many weeks or even months, that might have happened for me. But like I said to you guys yesterday, even now, I think if I ate instinctively, if I just went about my business, was a little busy, didn't eat quite so much, I still think my body's a little sensitive to that. Right? My natural set point over most of my life has been around 160, 165 pounds ish. Yep. A little bit above, a little bit below. And so even staying here, I'm 177 this morning, even staying up and around these higher 170s, it's effortless to stay here, but it does require some amount of diligence still.
Well,
so even this, I'm still having to make diligence in the right direction. Like if I ate instinctively, I would lose, not gain weight.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So I have to work at staying here a little bit.
Okay, so then you're all right. So you're 37 inches. Said, screw this. You started at 2750 with your cut.
Yep, and I'm still there.
And you're still there.
The cut, I just basically, I didn't track all the way through that cut. I just simply cut out snacking. That's all I did.
Yeah, simple little changes. That was fun, and that comes with experience as well. Something that Bryan and I have talked about before. You've been cutting and building for a while now, so you have a good idea, eyeballing portion sizes, and you eat a lot of the same foods just as I do. Yep. So structure is always there. You know that if I just cut out my snacks at night, I'm going to lose some weight. So you weren't necessarily tracking calories, but
that entire cut was done, but through hunger management. I just was never starving, but made sure I was a little bit hungry most of the day, each day. That was it.
Paying attention to hunger. That's it. That embracing hunger. So we're embracing and chasing maintenance, and you also got to embrace those hunger feelings during a cutting phase too, and kind of listen.
Yeah, and for me, psychologically, it was just so easy. It was a case of hunger means progress for me. So I didn't starve myself, but I just wanted to feel the edge of hunger. If I could feel it on the edge there, I knew I was making progress, and that's all I needed. Which is why the weight came off probably a little quick. I would have had to have diligently eaten more to slow the rate of loss for me.
Right. So you didn't do the tracking, listening to hunger cues during the cut. Then you were like, what is my maintenance? And you kind of went by the calculations to set that maintenance. And you're finding that it's probably pretty close, but it's actually more like a slow fat loss phase at that set target. So your maintenance may be around 28 to 2,900, somewhere in that ballpark. And that's just a guesstimation, basically. So here's one thing. So there's going to be a lot of people who are in our shoes who really thrive off of chasing the big goals. And we all know, I mean, it's work. It can be exhausting, especially towards the end of a cutting phase. You're like, okay, when's this going to end? And as fun, as exciting as it is, you love that challenge of pushing for it. And same thing at the building phase, really pushing it, but kind of be like, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, but kind of push through that uncomfortable feeling. Some people always have to have these big goals to chase, and you were one of those. What have you replaced that kind of urge, that feeling with? Are you finding other goals that you're able to replace that with, or what are you doing mentally to kind of handle this maintenance level phase?
I mean, nothing in particular. I mean, I've got, like I said before, this is not just in the gym for me, right? So being goal oriented and constantly chasing has been the, it's very thematic through my life, through work, and it's been successful. Just like it was successful, like on that bulking phase, it was also really successful for me. It's got me all of the things that I have. It's got me my career and my money and my things, right? Constantly chasing goals has been good to me on some level.
Yeah.
But it's also left me exhausted. It's left me mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted. And so the thing I'm getting most out of this 10-week chasing maintenance is just letting me be. It's just letting me do the work. It's putting a little bit more fun, back in the process, instead of it being, I must do this to maintain progress on this trajectory toward this goal, which, like I say, is perpetual for me. That's an everlasting process. Mm-hmm. And it's been a really nice break from that. And I've been doing a very similar thing try to do a very similar thing, at least in my life too, just taking time, even if it's just 15 minutes a day, to just not look backwards, not look forwards, just be where you are. So it's been great for that. And, I've had the bonus win of like 3 pounds of loss. It's like finding $10 in your back pocket when you put on a pair of jeans. It's like, it was a freebie, and I'll take it. But it wasn't a goal. I wasn't planning to lose weight. I really did want to put the brakes on, but like you said, it's been far less fearful, Scott. Losing those 3 pounds, being at 176, or I even saw 175 at one point in that 10 weeks, just as homeostasis drags you up and pulls you down, and just holds you in around that area. And it wasn't scary because I actually looked pretty good. I felt good. I was still looking pretty full. I was nice and tight. So the number all of a sudden became far less important. The number is only important if you make it important and chase it. If you're not chasing a number, then it doesn't matter.
Outstanding, man.
And that's been really nice.
I love it, man. I love it. It's exciting. And I guess in the beginning, like for someone who is goal oriented, needs like a big thing to chase, maintenance is a big thing to chase because it was a challenge for you. Maintenance offered a challenge. So for those people who are like, I need to have big changes going on, maintenance can be a very big challenge. And I look at what you've learned from the process here of maintenance, chasing maintenance, embracing it. It's very exciting for me. I think those are big takeaway points of just being and embracing the process more, and just getting more joy from your training because it's not something that you have to do for a goal. It's something that you can really, you're doing it because you want to do it and because you love it. So I think that's tremendous, man.
And I think it kind of consolidates because you feel like you earned it too, right? I mean, it's effortless now. It's relatively effortless for me to stay here. I could stay here another 10 weeks pretty comfortably. But that wasn't free. I paid my dues to get there, right? I had to earn that right. I think actually spending some time in that place, in this zone that I'm in now, really helps bring that message home. Because the other problem with it being so goal oriented is that I'd moved the goal in my mind before I'd even reached the finish post, right? So you can see the finish post at the end, and in my mind it's done, right? I've done that goal. and what's the next one. So you don't even get to savor it. You don't even get to enjoy it. Your mind's already moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And so having spent this 10 weeks, I'm kind of like, it's a constant reminder every day. You jump on the scale, it's right where it should be. You go in the gym, the performance is right where it should be. You look in the mirror, everything looks pretty tight. It's a constant reminder every day. You get to live that win every day. And I actually really enjoy that too.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's something that, I've come to terms with myself relatively recently, is that if you're always in goal attainment mode, like it's wonderful. It keeps you focused and it helps you cut out the noise and all that jazz. And you can make exponential progress versus just kind of coasting. But you can't do that all the time. At a certain point, you have to be like, just you pull back on that. Just focus. As Scott always says, like, focus more on the process. And let the kind of like, the Zen-like quality to that, as opposed to like, in 12 weeks. I'm gonna look like X, and then I'm gonna be so happy. Then I'm gonna be, it's always then I'm gonna be.
You're not. You're really not.
Yeah.
And if you are, it's really fleeting. It does not last.
And then
so I think those days are behind me.
That's excellent, man, and that's the beauty of this. Always learning. You learn from your fat loss phases so you're at the point now you can do it without tracking. You can just go intuitively through hunger. Building, you learn from that last building phase that yes, the time duration, it's excellent to extend a building phase longer, just not to the point of allowing, you just have to slow it down, not gain so much fat during the process. And then enjoy that maintenance level phase. You've learned from this maintenance level process. So each time you go through this in the future, just you're getting better, you're building off of the previous experiences, which is just excites the hell out of me to see this.
Yeah, and one thing I can't overstate enough for, just because especially people that I'm working with right now, they're all in the process. They're all like they're on a goal, most of them. So you very much got into a groove. Like, you got into an eating habit, right? Like, this is just how you eat every day. And then when it became like second nature, so then you were able to make changes very easily. Sure. Because it's just how you eat. Like, you punch the clock every day. Yeah. That's so important.
Yeah, habit is definitely a large part of it.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Outstanding, guys.
Yeah,
I think this was awesome. This was a great conversation, I think. Like I said, something that most people are not talking about, and I think there's lots of little golden nuggets from every little phase here, your building phase, fat loss phase, and maintenance phase. I think there's a lot that we can take away from this. Paul, I appreciate you sharing so much with us today. And like I said, it certainly does help having those numbers, the tracking, the measuring your progress, getting those hydrostatic tests to see your body fat percentage and weight mass. Something that I definitely am going to start doing a lot more of here, just to see how just to have a real honest gauge of what's going on here. So, man, you're a prime example, especially of taking advice and something that feels uncomfortable at first, but staying true, listening and fighting those urges to go against what the advice that's been shared with you and what you really know is best for you, and just staying the course, riding it out, and seeing how the experience goes for you. So
totally. You've got to try these things.
So many people bail way too soon on something, and you've learned from that.
Yeah, and 2 weeks is nothing. If you're going to try something, you've got to really try it.
Yeah, 2 weeks is nothing, man.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback and comment from everyone below here. And guys, this is excellent. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Catch you next time.
Yep.
Boom. Peace out.